Howdy, hi, thrill seekers. My corporate gig went pretty well this morning. I spoke to the people at ServiceNow, and I think it went well. It was a nice talk. Thanks for having me. That's it. So, I've been thinking about doing a review of this for a while. I've mentioned it before. This is Red Pine's book, The Platform Sutra. It's his translation and commentary of the Platform Sutra. What is the Platform Sutra, you might ask? Well, go back and look at my video about the Kobanchino's translation, and not translation, but commentary on the Platform Sutra. It's attributed to Huineng. A lot of people pointed out that I'd pronounced it wrong. It's spelled Huineng, but it's pronounced Huineng. This is because of the way Chinese is transliterated into English. It has that weirdness. And he is known as the sixth patriarch or sixth ancestor of Zen. He was one of the early Chinese Zen masters and considered to be one of the single most influential of all the Zen masters, and the Platform Sutra is a compilation of his teachings. I was kind of reluctant to dive into the Platform Sutra for a number of years, and I'll tell you why. I'm a big fan of Master Dogen's Shobo Genzo, and I'm a big fan of my teacher Gudo Nishijima, who translated this. And here is what we read in, or what I read in the translation of the Shobo Genzo. This is from an essay called Shizen Biku, the Bhikshu of the fourth dhyana, and it's a very complicated piece about this business of there are different levels of effects of meditation in early Buddhism, and it's about a monk who thought he had attained the fourth effect, which is the highest one, but he hadn't, and it's real complicated. It's one of my least favorite pieces because it's so hard to understand exactly what Dogen is saying. But here's one part where it seems to be pretty straightforward what Dogen is saying, and he talks about the Platform Sutra. First, he has this quotation in which it says, the person making the quotation is trying to say that Confucianism, Taoism, and Buddhism are all pretty much the same. And it's a kind of a common sentiment among Chinese people at Dogen's time. And this guy says, I have recognized that the essence of what Confucianism teaches is integrity, the essence of what the Tao teaches is detachment, and the essence of what Shakyamuni teaches is seeing the nature. That's Kensho, seeing into nature. Integrity, detachment, seeing the nature, different in name, same in substance. When we master the point at which they converge, there is nothing that does not concur exactly with this truth. And then Dogen talks about how wrong this is and so forth and so on, and after he's been talking about how wrong it is, he says this: where has any of the 7 Buddhas or the 28 patriarchs of India said that the Buddha Dharma is only seeing the nature? Again, Kensho. The 6th patriarch's Platform Sutra contains the words seeing the nature, but that text is a fake text. It is not the writing of one to whom the Dharma treasury was transmitted, and it is not the words of Soke. And I believe Soke is just another name for Daikon Eino, aka Huineng. It is a text upon which the descendants of the Buddhist patriarch absolutely never rely. And that's what he says there. And just for laughs and poops, I looked up the same passage in the this is the Tanahashi and et al. Translation of Dogen, and this is the same passage. Says, what is essential in Buddha Dharma is not seeing through human nature. That's how they translate Kensho. Who among the 7 original Buddhas and the 28 Indian ancestors regards Buddha Dharma as merely seeing through human nature? There are the words seeing through human nature in the 6th ancestor's Platform Sutra. It is an apocryphal text and not a text by someone who was entrusted with the Dharma treasury. Seeing through human nature are not words by Huineng. This is not a text to be relied upon by descendants of Buddha ancestors. So, just to let you know that it's not Nishijima Roshi's idiosyncratic translation of this thing that gives it that flavor. It's pretty much the way you translate this. So he seems to be putting down the Platform Sutra very strongly. However, there are numerous points in Shobo Genzo where Dogen either paraphrases or directly quotes the Platform Sutra, and seems to not question its reliability in those places. He mostly quotes the parts that are the biographical story of Huineng, which is the beginning of this. In the beginning of this sutra, Huineng tells his life story. It probably is not Huineng telling his life story. It's probably somebody else telling Huineng's life story, but written as if it's by Huineng, but be that as it may. Those are the parts that Dogen usually quotes, and he doesn't usually quote much of the rest of it, although he does follow a lot of the things that are talked about in the Platform Sutra, such as the giving of the precepts and these other practices that are talked about in the Platform Sutra. So I don't know what Dogen thought of the Platform Sutra, really, because there are times in Dogen's writings where he is definitely speaking to a specific audience that he wants to give a specific message to, and it's not really a kind of universal message. So I don't know whether to take this put down of the Platform Sutra as a universal put down of the Platform Sutra as being actually completely unreliable from start to finish, or if this is something he's saying for effect in this certain passage. I don't know. It's one of his later undated writings, so it's also possible that he would have rewritten it later on if he'd had time, because he died when he was 54 years old, not having completed Shobo Genzo. Hey, I'm dropping this in later, which is why the camera angle has probably changed, but I forgot to put this in the main video. The reason this term Kensho might have been a problem for Dogen is it tends to be a synonym for Satori, or enlightenment, or a special state of sudden realization that is very much prized in the Rinzai sect of Buddhism, and might have been an issue because some of the monks, or a lot of the monks that Dogen taught, had studied other forms of Buddhism, where this experience of sudden awakening, a sudden kind of experience, an enlightenment experience, was highly prized. And maybe that's why he was having such a problem with the word Kensho, seeing the nature, seeing into human nature, appearing in the Platform Sutra. Okay, now back to the video I actually made. Okay, so I spent 7 minutes telling you all that. So what do I think of this book? Well, I like this book. I think this is really well done, and thinking about the kind of Buddhist books I read, me, Brad, sitting here with his Gazoo t-shirt on and everything else, I usually like books that are pitched at about this level, and I sort of try to write books that are pitched at about this level, by which I mean that they are books that have some kind of scholarly merit, that are actually well studied, that you could learn something from, not in the sense of spiritual knowledge or awakening or whatever, just learn some facts because they're well researched, but not written at such a high academic level that it's impossible to understand them. Because I've got a whole shelf full of books that are written at such a high intellectual level and academic level that I have to sit there looking up words all the time, because they'll say soteriological or epistemological or things like that, and I'm going, oh God, what the hell is that? Or sometimes they're just in such convoluted sentences that I have no idea what this sentence adds up to. Academics like to write in that way. Well, Red Pine doesn't write in that way. So this is not this is not like Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind, or pretty much any of the books by Dainin Katagiri, where you could kind of just walk in off the street not knowing anything about Buddhism and be like, hey, I'll read this, and have fun on the beach reading. It's probably a little too dense for that. But on the other hand, it's not so dense that you have to be a complete academic of Buddhism to understand it. The other value of the Platform Sutra is its, whether or not the Platform Sutra is the actual words of Huineng or not is kind of irrelevant at this point. But what it contains is a kind of distillation of what the Zen sects of Buddhism became later on. So it's kind of all these things in embryonic form that later became just regular parts of Zen. So if you want to know where the taking of the precepts ceremony came from and things like that, this is where it comes from. It comes from this little book. What I also found that I enjoyed a lot about the book is this appendix, which is a bunch of additional texts, which are kind of, I don't know what you call them, like Q&As between different monks and Huineng, which I actually enjoyed more than the text itself a bit, because the text itself, well, it's kind of nice. It's good stuff. It tells you where everything is. What's good about Red Pine, I just opened to a random page, and he kind of, if any kind of weird terms come up in the text, he spends some time explaining them. Particularly, this one came up on one of my videos a while ago, Jambudvipa. I mentioned that Dogen said that enlightenment is more likely to occur on the southern continent of Jambudvipa, and then when I said it, I think, if I remember the video correctly, I kind of didn't know what Jambudvipa was, and this also comes up here. According to the Buddhist understanding of the world, which differs only slightly from accounts found in such Brahmanic texts as the Mahabharata, the central mountain of the world, Sumeru, is surrounded by a series of seas and intervening mountain ranges, and finally a set of continents, of which Jambudvipa is equivalent to the subcontinent of India. So that's what he equates it with, although there are other people who equate Jambudvipa with this world, or with this world, particularly the people within this world who are able to understand Buddhism. So maybe that's what Jambudvipa. Anyway, he explains stuff like that, so it's really nice. So I would recommend this book very highly for somebody who is looking to kind of deepen their intellectual understanding of Buddhism. Whereas I would, if somebody's just sort of new to Buddhism or new to Zen and wants to kind of get a flavor of it, I think a book like Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind is better, or pretty much any of the books by Dainin Katagiri. My book, Hardcore Zen, would probably be pretty good for that too. Or some of my other books, Letters to a Dead Friend about Zen, particularly, those are good for kind of getting an initial flavor of what Buddhism is about, and this is much more of a kind of a deep dive. So I would say I enjoy it and I recommend it, and pretty much anything by Red Pine I would say is reliable as a translation, because he's a very meticulous translator from Chinese texts and knows his stuff, and also is a practitioner, so he knows that aspect of it, so he's not just coming at it as a purely intellectual exercise. So there you go. That was a little review. I hope that review was useful to you. I don't know if things like this are useful to you, or if you want more fun stuff or whatever. But I appreciate you watching. If you want to donate to me, because I made some money this morning, but I don't make money most mornings, you can donate to me via this URL you're seeing below. That is my pretty much only way of making a living right now. I appreciate all those of you who do support me, but if you're having financial trouble, don't support me, because I'm not that needy. But I do appreciate those of you who do support me, because that's how things carry on in my life financially. And we will see you next time. Have a good time all the time. Bisels. Do you think the Platform Sutra was an apocryphal text? What do you think, Ziggy? No?